Hello, I'm Shelby Herry, your host for the latest edition of Life Out Loud. Today, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Therrel Brown, coordinator of the Alamance County Teen Court Program. Welcome, Dr. Brown, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you for asking me.
First off, for those who don't know, what is Teen Court?
Teen Court is an outstanding diversion program primarily designed for first offenders of juvenile crime. In North Carolina, if a juvenile is age 16, he or she is considered to be an adult. So at 16 in North Carolina, they would go to adult court. So this is a great program for a young person who makes a dumb choice or finds himself at the wrong place, the wrong time, with the wrong crowd. The young person who goes through teen court, they have to admit that they committed the crime or the particular offense. So the person admits to what they're doing, and they're here to take responsibility, and it's going to go away. They will not get a juvenile record. The parents do not have to hire an attorney. Normally you can do teen court one time. And normally that's all it takes because we have a 95-96% success rate and that they don't reoffend.
How is it determined that a young person is sent to teen court?
That is determined more often than not by the referring agency or person. A school resource officer, for example, has the option to send that person that's violated, gotten in a fight at school, brought a weapon to school, is busted for possession of marijuana on school property. He or she being the school resource officer, has the option to send that child or that young person to teen court or juvenile court. We also have a provision for a parent, and we probably don't get more than 3 or 4 a year, that can bring their child through teen court under a parental referral. They're worried about the child's skipping school, and they've not done enough to get a formal referral to the system. So that parent comes in, they say, we need some help, and I say, write down what's going on with your child, the dynamics of your interaction with that child, and we'll take them through teen court, and it works there also. North Carolina is the only state left that sends 16, 17, and 18-year-olds through adult court. I am encouraging law enforcement officials, if the young person is in school and doing well and makes a mistake, please give them the option of teen court one time, as opposed to sending them to adult court, because that record is yours forever and ever and ever, amen. It does not go away.
What type of offenses do you see in teen court, and what is the most common offense?
We have 3 categories of offenses. We have type A offenses. These are assaults, larcenies, drug crimes, hunting violations, resist, obstruct, and delay, possession of a weapon on campus. I think I've mentioned that earlier. Breaking and entering. These are considered to be the most serious offenses. The Class B offenses would consist of things like harassing telephone calls, vandalism, shoplifting, and communicating threats. Then the Type C, which is the lowest, as a fray or a nickel-dime fight at school, trespassing, disorderly conduct, or in some cases, every now and then we'll get a failure to disperse. The SRO says, you guys break it up and go to your classrooms, and they don't. That could be a Class C misdemeanor. And the sanctions or punishments are, for example, Class A, you could have 1, 2, or 3 educational seminars. These are classes in the evening, 2 to 3 hours in duration. One is communication skill, anger management. Another one is substance abuse education. And another one is bullying. A lot of bullying goes on in school. If someone's convicted or attends teen court under the banner of bullying, that you can just about bet that they're going to get that. Another thing for sure is jury duties. Coming back and sitting on the jury for other kids going through teen court, 1, 2, or 3 evenings. Another thing that most of the offenses will call for is an apology letter from 100 to 200 words. So if a young person goes through teen court and they come out with 1 seminar, 1 evening of jury duties, and 1 apology letter, they've done well because that's the minimum and that's mandatory. You could get more. A couple of the eye-raising options are community service, 4 to 20 hours. A young person gets 10 hours of community service, could go to a soup kitchen, scrub pots and pans, sweep floors, clean bathrooms. They go to a recreation center and do the same thing. They could pick up papers in a park under supervision. They could pull weeds at a nature area. Then you have a written essay of 500 to 1,000 words. That also is an option. For example, if someone was sent to teen court for fighting in school, they might get an essay entitled "Why Fighting in School is Not Cool." So they would write a 600-word, 700-word essay on that particular topic. And the deal with teen court is you've got 90 days from the day that you go through teen court to do whatever it is the jury tells you you're supposed to do or need to do. And if you don't do it in 90 days, then you're in non-compliance and you're subject to be sent back to juvenile court. So it is the sentences are binding, and again, compliance is mandatory.
On average, how many cases do you see in teen court per year?
We're contracted by the state of North Carolina Juvenile Crime Prevention Commission to do 125. Historically, we've done pretty close to 250. Last year we did 159. So it's dropping a little bit, but juvenile crime in North Carolina is dropping a little bit, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So we generally exceed what we're paid to do, and that's a good deal for the taxpayer, and that's a good deal for the state. It costs $600 to take a young person through teen court. That's from doing the paperwork, doing the intake interview, doing teen court, and the restitution that's involved in that. $600. Juvenile court, it runs about $1,400 just to go through juvenile court, even if they just get probation. So it's a good or big bang for the buck.
What about gender? Do you see more cases involving males or females?
Generally, it tends to be about 59% male, 41% female in regards to the referrals. The crimes are pretty much the same. A lot of assaultive behavior at school, whether it be an affray, disorderly conduct, or assault, drug charges, possession of marijuana. We've had situations where a young person will bring a medication to school that belonged or was prescribed to their grandmother or their mother for blood pressure. And one of the questions that we ask is, and we do it facetiously or sarcastically, you're not a pharmacist, are you? No, I'm not. Well, then you're not authorized to be dispensing prescription medication on school campus. And they're not. And it's a serious offense in that young person they're giving that medication to could be on other medications and the interaction could kill them. So it's not nickel dime stuff. It's really, really, really serious.
What about repeat offenders?
Teen court traditionally normally is a one-shot deal. We do have a situation every now and then where a school resource officer will recommend a person that went through teen court 2 or 3 years ago. Been doing great since then. Nickel dime a fight where he or she was being bullied, and finally they responded aggressively. I don't recall ever turning one of those down. If the school resource officer says this person is deserving of another shot through teen court, I'll figure a way to do it.
Can teenagers volunteer to take part in teen court?
Oh my goodness, yeah. If they're upstanding leaders in their school and in their communities, we have kids from every school in Alamance County, and they're all outstanding young persons. Homeschooled kids, as well as kids that are doing the traditional schooling. I've had young persons in teen court that began when they were 12 years old, and they actually graduated out of the program. They're in college now, and we still hear from them. But it's not uncommon to have someone in teen court as a volunteer for 5 or 6 years. I didn't. One of the things we also have is we have a scholarship. Every young person that volunteers in teen court gets scholarship money. It's not a lot. It can range from $100 to $400, but it's unencumbered in that they can use it for clothing, books, whatever, as long as they're going to an institute of higher education.
What about parents? Are they involved in the process?
Yes, they are. In fact, obviously they provide transportation, but there's another position in teen court called the adult bailiff. They'll go into the deliberation room with the jury and make sure they stay on task. They don't tell them how to deliberate or what to do, but they sit there and make sure that the sentences that the offendant gets are within the guidelines and that they stay on task. The other adult volunteer involves the legal system in our community. All the judges in teen court are lawyers. They give up their time twice a month. We have about 30 of them. They rotate. And they serve as the judge. They listen to the cases. They make sure that the attorneys, the young teenage attorneys, are within the guidelines and the protocol of the court. And they really actually run the court. We also run the court as the judge. But those are the two positions in teen court, adult bailiff and the judges that are filled with adults.
And finally, what advice would you give to teenagers to help them stay out of trouble?
Take a long, hard look at your peer group. Where are they going? What are they doing? Every time I do an intake with a young person for teen court, I stop at some point in that process and I say, if you could go back to February the 2nd at such and such a school and do something differently, would you? And inevitably the answer is yes. They'd go back and they would not be hanging with the people they're hanging with. I asked a young man today that was in charge with shoplifting, what would you do differently? He says, I wouldn't go in the store. I said, well, that's not the answer. I wouldn't expect you not to go in the stores because you might. What would you do differently? You can still go in the stores, but you don't have to steal. And if you're hanging with people who do that, then you certainly don't want to go into a store with them because the likelihood is you're going to get swept up in some impulsive activities. It's going to be painful to you, your parents, and the community. So take a long, hard look at your peer group and who you're running with and where you're going, where you want to go. And is what I'm getting ready to do going to help me or hurt me? Is what I'm getting ready to do going to help me or hurt me? And more often than not, it's going to do one of those two things.
That's awesome. Thanks again for taking time to speak with us, Dr. Brown.
Appreciate you.
Well, that wraps up another installment of Life Out Loud. I hope you found it informative. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.